Tell her not to follow me. None of you should. Not ever. The first time Karn tried to solve Mirrodin's Phyrexian problem, he'd left word behind that he wasn't to be pursued. It was a conscious decision. The corruption was taking hold of him. Mirrodin fell because of Karn. In his arrogance, he'd shaped the world. In his hubris, he'd left one of his own creations in charge of it. In his ignorance, he'd tracked Phyrexian oil throughout the plane. If he'd been more present, he might have realized Memnarch had lost his way. If he'd paid attention, he might have seen the oil dripping in his wake. But he wasn't present, and he wasn't paying attention. And Mirrodin's fall crushed anyone who lived within it. Don't follow me, he told the others. Because all of this was his problem, and solving it was going to kill him. And he was right. If it wasn't for Venser sacrificing his spark, Karn would be dead. A brilliant inventor, teller of awful jokes, and general thorn in the side of most who knew him, Venser was part of the group that had come to find Karn when he was deep in the throes of Phyresis. Koth and Elspeth beat the pack of the enemy's legions long enough to buy Venser time, to find him deep within Mirrodin's core. Malira had made Venser immune to corruption. And Venser, time and time again, Karn swore that he'd do honor to Venser's memory. Venser had seen something in him, something worth dying for. If Karn let himself die, he'd be betraying that hope. Which makes his current predicament all the more painful. Lashed to a floating piece of slag, held aloft by Norn's choir, made of the same material that had arrested his planeswalking in the caves of Koilos, what felt like years ago. He has the perfect view to the end of the multiverse. Most of his body has been taken for scrap. Karn used to wonder why he could feel pain. People are less likely to hurt something that screams, Urza said. What a shame Phyrexians aren't people. Karn's in agony. He has no choice but to embrace it, reshape it, make something useful. An anchor that will keep him tied to what remains of this body. So long as he can feel that pain, he is himself. And surrounded by the triumph of his failures, it only feels appropriate. This is the end of his creations, of the multiverse, of him. Knowing Norn, it won't come quickly. Between Vorniclex's endless taunts and Jin Gataxias' prodding, Karn has no illusions about what's going to be done to him. What is being done to him. The Phyrexians have been taking him apart, piece by piece, and repurposing his silver body. Vorniclex and Jin Gataxias have different ideas on how best to do that, but the core idea is the same. And Norn? Norn wants him to suffer. He sees that in her fang-ridden smile. "False patriarch," she says to Karn. "Isn't this a blessed sight? After all your years of stumbling, to see the heights we've climbed without you." Karn does not look at her. Cannot. He has precious little power left within him. With whatever remains, he wants to remember his friends. It is the least he can do for them. Koth sits straight-backed, even as Jin Gataxias advances toward him. Of the captives, he is the only one to meet Karn's eyes. The others have their reasons. Chandra is too beaten to kneel upright. And Malira? Malira can't bear to look either. Though his heart aches, he understands. After all that they'd worked towards, all their time together struggling against the impossible, the sacrifices and the dreams, they are all going to die here because of his mistakes all that time ago. If he were in her position, he wouldn't want to look either. His Mirren would-be rescuers have lost limbs. Some are already being spliced into new monstrosities. When they first arrived, there were dozens of them. Now, there's only a handful left. Koth, Malira, Ren, Chandra, and perhaps 10 or 20 survivors. One by one, the rest of them have been dragged off for experiments. Those that remain here, Norn has kept for her own special reasons. One of the chorus members extends herself, her spine unfolding like an accordion to accommodate her new growth. She takes Karn's head in hand and holds it in place, forces him to confront Norn's face. Phyrexia has posed you a question. You must answer it. It is no wonder you've failed to lead us if you cannot do as much as this. Karn is weary. He cannot think of something to say. In the end, he does not have to. Jin Gitaxias raises an arm to strike. In the gleam of his wicked claws, Karn sees the ghosts of his past. Who better to offer him comfort at a time like this? Soon, he will be among them, wherever they might have gone. Will it hurt? Will it be like falling asleep? He's always been envious of sleep. Time to rest. He closes his eyes, for a flash of gold to blare across his eyelids. A clarion call shatters the chitter-skitter of Phyrexia's great machines. The gathered forces have only an instant's warning for what is to come, and no idea what it might be. As golden light swallows the onlookers, Karn hears the clashing of metal. And because he was built to function in the strangest environments, he can see what has appeared in the center of the shockwave now rocking the bridge. An angel, in gleaming armor, a golden blade now raised to counter Jin Gitaxias' strike. She descends from on high like the lance of an angry god toward them, and when she lands, she craters the metal beneath her. Her impact sends dozens of Jin Gitaxias' legions tumbling into the abyss. The choir's delicate bodies aren't meant for an impact like this either. Soon they plummet into the dark as well, sending Karn's chunk of slag hurtling to the ground. Still he watches. "You will not strike this man down," says the angel. Wait, doesn't he? That voice. Karn isn't the only one to recognize it. Only an arm's length away, Elesh Norn lets out a keening screech. "You!"
Continue reading on magic.wizards.com/story or click the link in the description.